Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Well, you've seen all the commercials, read all the articles, heard all the talk, and finally, the climax of the 2010 campaign season has arrived. Election Day is tomorrow, Tuesday, November 2nd. Here in the town of Barnstable, we'll be choosing a brand new congressional representative, of course a new state senator as well. There's the race for governor, contests for a number of additional seats in the state legislature, and don't forget about all those ballot questions. Statewide, there are 3 ballot questions for you to consider. Question 1 deals with the state sales tax on alcoholic beverages. Question 2 asks whether or not voters want to repeal the Chapter 40B affordable housing law. And question 3 proposes a rollback of the sales tax from 6.25 to 3%. For more information on these questions, you can visit the Secretary of the Commonwealth's website at www.sec.state.ma.us. If you're a Barnstable resident, however, there will be 2 additional ballot questions for you to consider. One dealing with the town's proposed sewer expansion program, and another that proposes a private roads taking and repair program. Last Thursday on Barnstable This Morning, Finance Director Mark Milne provided us with some excellent information on these 2 local questions, and we're happy to share them with you again now. Let's dive right in with the first question here. I believe this will appear as, do they appear as question 4 and question 5 on our ballots?
I think so.
Okay, very good. So let's start with the first one here. I'll just read the text. It says, shall the town of Barnstable be allowed to assess an additional $750,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the Sewer System Stabilization Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2011? Mark, I'll open up the floor to you. Give us your breakdown of what this ballot question actually says.
Well, it's asking the voters if they would approve a stabilization fund for the construction of sewers, and that the money will be is one of obviously it's a property tax override, and it would. But the way the stabilization fund works is that it requires an annual reauthorization of the town council every year, so it isn't like a traditional operating override that automatically increases the tax levy every year.
Okay.
This type of tool has to be looked at every year by the town council and reauthorized on a yearly basis, and the money can only be used for what that ballot question says it can be used for and nothing else. So it can't be redirected by a future town council to some other program area without going back to the voters and asking them to change the purpose.
Now, it says Sewer System Stabilization Fund right here in the ballot question. What's meant by a stabilization fund?
Well, the stabilization fund is the term that the Department of Revenue uses to classify this type of financial mechanism, which is a specialized, kind of like a specialized tax override that I just talked about,
right,
where it has these strings attached to it, and it has an additional levels of oversight that are attached to it, unlike a traditional operating override. It's more like a debt exclusion override in that it can only be used for a certain purpose, but it's a little different than a debt exclusion override in that it doesn't expire when it's not attached to a particular debt issuance. It expires at the time when the town council decides it'll expire, like when the program's no longer considered necessary.
How will this impact the tax rate, Mark?
Well, based on our current values, this would add about 6 cents on the tax rate.
Okay. Can you give us a sense of what this is going to end up helping to pay for in the short term?
We have an approved wastewater facilities plan that DEP has approved, and which has identified several neighborhoods that could be tied into the sewer plant on Bursa's Way. This is one of 4 funding sources that are going to be used to construct the sewer system extensions that are needed to bring those various neighborhoods into that plant on Bursa's Way. The council also authorized the increase in the rooms tax rate, an implementation of a local meals tax, as well as a 50% betterment assessment to property owners who would be tying into the sewer system. So those three funding sources, along with this ballot question, if approved, combined, those four funding sources would create a pool of funds which would then be used to pay back the loans that would be issued to construct these various sewer extensions.
Let's move on to the second ballot question now, Mark, and I'll read the text from this one as well. Shall the town of Barnstable be allowed to assess an additional $3 million in real estate and personal property taxes for the purpose of creating a stabilization fund, once again, for funding taking, layout, and improvement of certain private ways as town ways for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2011? This is the private roads ballot question. Tell us about this.
Yes, this question relates to creating a funding source that would allow the town to take the private roads that are in disrepair and bring them up to current standards. We have a number of failing roads in town, private roads in town, that have reached the end of their useful life. Similar to the other ballot question, this would work the same way. This is another stabilization fund, which would require the annual authorization of the town council to continue. And the money would be used to lay out and take and repair certain public way or private ways and ultimately make them public roads. So that going forward, the town would have the responsibility and not the property abutters that live on them to maintain those roads.
Okay, and how does this impact the tax rate should this question pass?
Based on today's property values, this would increase the tax rate about 22 cents.
Just to give people a sense who don't live on private roads, who do live on roads that the town is obligated to take care of, can you just explain for us the difference between what the town's financial and construction obligations, I guess, are to folks who live on private roads?
The town is prohibited from spending public monies for the maintenance and upkeep of private ways.
Okay.
Now, the only thing we can do is to make emergency repairs. So we do have some money budgeted to make emergency repairs to private ways, obviously for public safety purposes. But we don't have the authorization to go in there and rip the road up and reconstruct it, or to repave it. It's because it's a private way, it's privately owned property. So it's it's the responsibility of the homeowners to keep those roads in conditions so that they can be traveled across. But there are cases where very few cases where the town can go in and actually make repairs, and that's only for the emergency purposes.
All right, Mark, excellent information from you. Thank you for breaking this down for us in plain language. Certainly, there are a number of important choices for you to make on Tuesday, and whatever you decide, all that we hope is that you get to your polling location and vote. Don't know where you're supposed to vote? Well, we've got you covered. Here's a precinct-by-precinct breakdown of polling locations in the town of Barnstable. Polls are open on Tuesday from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And, of course, if you need more information, you can check online at the town's website, town.barnstable.ma.us. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.